What's up, you beautiful disasters? Welcome to Sober Psychology. I'm Michael, psychologist in training, a sober dad, and the guy who's made enough bad choices to know that they weigh heavier than a Monday morning existential crisis.
Milk was a bad choice.
Today we're tackling the burden of choice. You know, it's that paralyzing moment when you're staring at 47 Netflix shows, a dating app full of red flags, or a menu with more options than your brain can handle. You freeze, you pick something dumb, or you just give up and eat cereal for dinner again anyways. Let's just cut the crap here. Choice is supposed to be freedom. But it's secretly screwing you over. You're not empowered, you're drowning in decisions. From what to wear, whether to dump your dead-end job, whatever. I'm diving into why choices feel like a trap, how they hit harder if your brain is wired differently, and how to stop letting options ruin your life. This ain't fluffy self-help nonsense. I'm hitting you with raw truth, dark humor, and psychological ass-kickings. Multiple, plural. Stick around because by the end of this, you'll know why your brain chokes on choices, how to make better ones, and why indecision is just self-sabotage in a fancier suit. We're unpacking the psychology of choice overload with real-life tips to stop stalling and start living, especially if you've got ADHD, OCD, or another neurodivergent twist. So let's rip this open. Welcome to the show where we break down the mental health stigma, navigate sobriety with humor, and prove that it's okay to laugh while you heal. Let's get real, let's get honest, and maybe a little weird. Growth is messy, but you don't have to do it alone. This is Sober Psychology. Welcome back, you beautiful people. Another week. We made it to episode 40. It's wild. It's wild. 40. It feels like I started this podcast like 10 days ago sometimes, but then other times it's like I've been doing this for 4 years. I don't know, but I've enjoyed the journey thus far. Episode 40. I don't know. Is that a milestone? Is that like a good spot to be in? I don't know. Anyways, thank you for rocking with us this long. If you're someone who's new, just tuning in, if you're carrying over from previous weeks, whatever. I'm grateful that you're here. I appreciate you a lot. We still have a lot of people who watch the content who aren't subscribed, and that hurts my heart a little bit. But you know what? We're going to skip another week of not doing the infographics and not trying to oversell you on anything. I'm just letting you know. If you're here, I would appreciate you liking, subscribing, sharing. I'm not paying for marketing. I'm not doing any of this channel boosting stuff. I'm just wanting this to be organic growth with people who need to see it, hear it, whatever. Consume the content at will. I am here to give you whatever I can, and hopefully you enjoy it enough to continue coming back week after week or telling people about it. That would be great. We're diving in this week to self-sabotage because we're diving into this week about the burden of choice because last week we talked about self-sabotage. I think these two kind of coincide, especially if you're the person who gets overwhelmed by decisions or choices and then you choose to do nothing at all, or you just impulsively make a bad decision. Those are forms of self-sabotage. So for me, it just made sense to kind of track it down. I'll be 100% transparent with you guys at the beginning here. I'm not too keen on the whole ADHD, neurodivergent, all the labels that you give that create excuses for you to continue acting the way that you act. That's not the right channel. If you're looking for some type of coddling, not it. I have ADHD. I've also been diagnosed with a functional OCD. And I do see those play out in my life a lot, every day. And it's especially exacerbated now that I'm a father and I'm stressed and I'm tired and there's a lot of panicked decision making in parenthood sometimes, you know, so, I'm with you and I understand I'm in the trenches, but however, I don't want to ever use that as a crutch. I don't want to use it as an excuse to not do the right thing, right? So, but I do dive a lot on this episode into ADHD, OCD, and I think autism as well. Any level of neurodivergence can kind of be covered by those three, in my opinion. I pulled from a lot of studies. Okay, I'm letting y'all know that I went deep into the research, probably to the point where it's going to be annoying to hear me constantly cite these studies. But because I have such a lack of understanding in neurodivergence and the depth that all of that entails from a psychological perspective, I wanted to rely on people who are a lot more intelligent than I am and have everything that I'm saying backed by science. So as is typically the case on this channel, unless I tell you that I'm expressing an opinion or unless I'm giving you a story from my own life, everything else that I'm saying, you can see that it's backed up by science, by studies. I got references that I always put in the video descriptions as well, so cross-check me on that. But if I somehow offend anybody or I'm not doing a good job of explaining neurodivergence, feel free to reach out to me. I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be defensive. I just want to be as educated as possible. And honestly, as someone who is ADHD and OCD and probably autistic, as low-level autistic as well, I'm not in that loop enough to identify. I think it's become a very trendy thing to do on social media, talk about being autistic and talk about all ADHD as an excuse for everything. I don't agree with any of that. Okay. If you have it, you have it, figure it out, learn about it, and get better, period. Right. But I also have a hard time with lacking sensitivity. So help me out here, folks. But anyways, we'll go around real quick. But if you're here, thank you very much. Love you. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you so much for being here. And you, thank you. Okay? And then we got the whole family here. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you very much. All right. So let's dive in. This is going to be part one of all of this. We're going to talk about why choice feels like a punch in the face. All right. So choice can oftentimes sound like a party. You get to pick your career, your partner, your pizza toppings even, right? But if we're being real with ourselves, too many options make you want to absolutely scream into the void, right? There was a 2000 study in 2000 by Sheena, I'm going to butcher this name. I think it's Iyengar. Anyways, and Mark Lepper, and they did this in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. And this is the famous, if you look up the JAM study, this should pull up, but it showed people who were offered 24 types of jam, that they are less likely to buy any of those versus the people who were only offered 6, right? And the numbers are staggering too. More choices equals less action. Your brain is not built for a world with 50 streaming services or a dating app full of wannabe influencers. All right. And here's a little bit of truth for you. Too many choices don't actually free you at all. They screw you up, right? You're not choosing between apples and oranges. You're picking between 47 flavors of existential dread, right? There's such a thing as decision fatigue. It is real, right? Your brain gets absolutely fried. So you pick nothing at all or something completely stupid. It's like staying in a job that makes, because it's easier to do that, right? A job that makes you miserable and a job that makes you hate your life, but I'm going to stay there because that's the easier choice, right? So stop acting like indecision is your vibe, right? It's just you choking under pressure. That's all it is. And I hate to go back to this and kind of fall on this, but evolution is kind of to blame. I think evolution is the culprit in this situation, because back when our ancestors were dodging saber-toothed tigers, the choices were pretty simple. You either run or you get eaten, right? Stand and fight, get eaten. That's it. And then now your brain is still wired for these binary type of decisions, fight or flight, right? But you're choosing between oat milk lattes and serious life plans. Right? There's a 2017 study in Nature Reviews Neuroscience, I believe, that found that the prefrontal cortex, which that's your decision-making hub, right? That's the headquarters for all that's the adult part of your brain. That gets overwhelmed when options begin to pile up, which leads to stress and shitty choices. And I've been there 100%, a ton of times, right? Standing at a grocery store paralyzed by cereal brands or olive oil or whatever. And then you end up picking the sugary crap because, deciding felt like brain surgery, right? And then for like the neurodivergent folks, this is absolute next level hell, right? If you've got ADHD, your brain is already juggling a million thoughts like a caffeinated squirrel. There's a 2020 study in the Journal of Attention Disorders that found that people with ADHD struggle more with decision making due to impaired executive function. Impaired executive function. Go look that up. That leads to impulsivity or paralysis. Those are the two, right? It's binary. Your brain is trying to function in a binary sense, but you're giving it all of these choices. If you have OCD, you're trapped in this loop and you're obsessing over the right choice like it's a life or death mission. Right? There's a 2019 study in the Journal of Obsessive Compulsive and Related Disorders that showed that OCD increases decision anxiety as you ruminate over every possible outcome. Right? Even autism can begin to amplify all of this, right? Overstimulation from too many options can absolutely shut you down completely. There's a 2021 study in autism research that linked choice overload to sensory overwhelm in autistic individuals, right? So that choice overload is the same thing as that sensory overwhelm feeling that people with autism tend to get, right? If your brain is wired differently, choices aren't just hard, they're an absolute battlefield, okay? And I especially see I've done all of this. I fall into all of these categories, but there's a lot of decision paralysis, but I struggle the most with like the OCD aspect of it. I will, when multiple decisions pop up in my head, I've already gone through and looked at all the potential outcomes of these, and then I start to panic. So I'm like, what's the right one? There's always, a good decision, then there's a better decision, then there's the best decision. I want to pick the best, and that can sometimes lead me to not doing anything. This podcast was supposed to be started probably 6 months before I actually did it. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. I've rearranged this office 8 different times. It's this analysis paralysis kind of thing, but then I also panic, and then I also have a million other thoughts going on like a crackhead squirrel. So I get it. I understand it, right? But I'm just letting you see from the different perspectives, okay? Part 2 of this, the psychology of choice overload, okay? We're going to break down the psychology of all of this for you real quick. So why does choice screw with your head so much? Barry Schwartz's 2004 book, which is called The Paradox of Choice, he pretty much nails this, right? More options mean more regret. Hear me say it again. More options mean more regret, right? You pick one job and then you wonder if the other one was going to be better for you, right? And sometimes that doesn't start off, you're going through your training and it's new and fresh, but then you're 6 months into this job and you're like, oh gosh, should I have picked the other one? All right, so more options, more regret. You swipe right on one date and you're haunted by the 50 that you skipped. All right, there's a 2019 study in psychological science that found that maximizers, I believe is how it says it, maximizers, which are basically people obsessed with the best choice. That's me. Hello, I'm a maximizer here. They are the most stressed and they're less satisfied than, we'll call them satisfiers, right? These are the people who pick something good enough and then they just move on, okay? So guess who's absolutely happier in their life choices? It's not the guy who's overanalyzing his Spotify playlist, okay? So you want to stop stressing, stop chasing the perfect choice. It's an absolute myth, I promise you. There's a 2020 study in the Journal of Consumer Psychology that showed that satisfiers, which they're the people who just make the choice that's good enough and move on, but satisfiers make faster decisions and they feel better overall. So quit acting like your coffee order defines your worth. Pick something decent and then just keep it moving along, right? Cognitive load theory explains why your brain begins to tap out. Cognitive load theory. Every choice eats at mental bandwidth here. And by the day's end, you're too fried to decide dinner. So you DoorDash junk food again, right? There's a 2018 study in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences that found that decision fatigue hits hardest when you're stressed, which leads to impulsive or avoidant choices. And for my ADHD folks, this is worse, right? Your executive function is already stretched so thin, so you might impulsively buy a $200 jacket or avoid decisions altogether. Right? Another study, a 2021 study in the Journal of Attention Disorders showed that ADHD increases susceptibility to decision fatigue, which making even small choices feel like climbing Everest, okay? There's a lot going on there for ADHD folks. Brain is constantly rattling, and then you present them with a ton of choices, and they either shut down or they just impulsively make a decision, right? OCD takes this to a completely different level, right? You're not just choosing, you're stuck in this mental loop that you put yourself in, checking and rechecking every single option. There's a 2020 study in psychiatry research that found that OCD patients take much longer to decide due to fear of making the wrong choice, which ends up spiking the anxiety. And for the autistic individuals out there, sensory overload from too many options like a crowded menu or busy dating app can trigger shutdowns big time, okay? There's a 2020, I told y'all we have a lot of studies here, but there's a 2022 study in the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders that found that autistic people often avoid choices to manage sensory stress, right? Neurodivergent or not, your brain is just begging for a break. That's all it's doing. And then there's the fear of failure, right? You don't have to be a neurodivergent to have that. Everybody has that. There's the fear of failure, which a 2020 study in the Journal of Behavioral Decision Making found that people avoid choices when they fear regret or judgment, right? More choices, more regret, right? You don't apply for that promotion because you think, what if I suck? You don't ask out that cute barista because it's, what if she says no, right? That's not caution, it's cowardice in a nice suit, right? So this is a tough part. I read a book on presidents a while back, and do you know how many presidents have limited outfits? They have white shirts, they have a red or a blue tie or one that's kind of fun, and then they have a blue suit or they have a charcoal suit, okay? And that makes a functional wardrobe. They wake up every day and they put on the exact same thing. The biggest choice that they have for the day is their tie. Maybe their shoes if they have black or brown shoes, and that's it. And that's because they're making decisions constantly from the time they wake up to the time that they go to bed. And once you eliminate that first thing that you're trying to do for the day of getting ready and getting dressed, you have already eliminated the burden of choice and all of that. Then all of a sudden, your mind is freed up to make more decisions down the line. And that's actually a very fascinating study because you can apply that with a lot of other things in your life, And this is again, all of this goes back to ancestral traits, in my opinion, of the binary decision making. We're fight or flight, right? It's kill or be killed, the kind of mentality from our ancestors. And then now you fast forward to 2025 and think about how many decisions are out there for you on a daily basis. And then on top of that, we're throwing in all of this confusion with social media and doom scrolling. And I mean, how many of you, seriously, you have a plan, you want to watch a movie and you sit down and you end up spending 35, 45 minutes trying to figure out what movie you're going to watch because Netflix has 1,000+ options for you. And then if Netflix doesn't have what you're looking for, you'll switch over to HBO Max, and then you'll switch over to Disney Plus, and then you'll switch over to this and that. And then before you know it, you've reviewed and looked at, 50 movies, and then you're tired and don't want to watch a movie anymore. All right. So we're forcing these binary set brains to deal with this multitude of decisions, and it wears us down, neurodivergent or not, right? That's just a human condition. Part 3 of all of this, the dark side of the burden of choice. Buckle up, buttercups, it's gonna get real. Choice overload doesn't just stress you out, it screws your life. Indecision is a choice, all right? And it's usually the worst one. Now, there's a 2019 study in the Frontiers in Psychology that linked chronic indecision to much, much, much higher anxiety, okay? And not only much higher anxiety, but I believe, you can go double check me on this, I believe it was also linked to depression and lower life satisfaction. So it was like a lot of negatives, right? Just because of this constant need for not choosing, for avoiding altogether. You're not keeping your options open. You're stuck, watching life pass by, while you debate pizza toppings. That's not a way to live, right? Indecision is just self-sabotage with better branding. Indecision is just self-sabotage with better branding. Every time you stall, you're choosing failure by default, right? So stop acting like I'll decide later. That's a strategy that is not going to work out for you. It's just you dodging while life kicks you in the ass, basically. So pick something, or life is going to pick it for you. And I could tell you from personal experience, and I'm sure most of you will be able to back this up, life is sometimes a pretty shitty matchmaker. So don't let life choose for you. You get to choose. Pick. Just pick something to move on. For the neurodivergent folks, this is an absolute nightmare. ADHD can make you impulsively choose the worst option, like quitting a job in a huff, right? I'm just upset. I'm just going to quit just impulsively. Now I can't pay bills. Uh-oh. And then, or it's going to make you avoid entirely, which is going to just leave you paralyzed, therefore leading to less life satisfaction. All right, there's a 2020 study in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology that found that ADHD increases decision avoidance, leading to missed opportunities and chronic stress, okay? OCD traps you in that obsessive loop that we've talked about, where you can't choose a restaurant because you're terrified of picking the wrong restaurant, right? There's a 2021 study in the Journal of Anxiety Disorders that linked OCD to decision paralysis, which absolutely tanks productivity and relationships. For autistic individuals too, many choices can feel like sensory torture, absolute torture, right? And this is going to lead to withdrawal or eventually a meltdown. A 2022 study in autism showed that choice overload exacerbates social and professional challenges for autistic people. It's tough, right? Even the neurotypical folks pay a price, big time. In relationships, indecision absolutely kills it. Have you ever ghosted someone because you couldn't decide if they were the one? There's a 2021 study in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships that found that indecision in romantic choices leads to lower commitment and higher breakup rates. You're not picky, you're just scared to bet on someone and lose, right? And at work, you're stalling projects because you can't pick a plan, which makes you look like a flake, right? And that's also tough. There's a 2018 study in the Organizational Behavior and Human Decision processes that found that indecisive people are seen as less competent and trustworthy. So you may be hyper intelligent, but if you're in this state of not choosing at all, or being stuck, being paralyzed in your decision making, you're seen as being stupid and you're not seen as being trustworthy. Okay? Your friends stop asking you to plan nights out because you're still deciding, all right? You're not quirky, you're exhausting. That's just the way that is. And I mean, if we're going to get real with this, indecision can ruin absolutely big moments for you. Great opportunities. Choosing a college, a career, or whether it's to move to a different city, some big decision like that. If you stall too long and the opportunity is gone, that's it. Done. See ya. Bye. Dust in the wind. You missed it. There's a 2019 study in the Journal of Personality that found that chronic indecision predicts lower life achievement. Okay? That's a trend that you don't want. You want to be effective. You want to achieve at life. But having this constant indecision aspect within you is going to lead to that lesser achievement. All right? You're not thoughtful. You're just scared to pull the trigger. That's it. Okay? And that's tough. There are a lot of times where I'm terrified to make decisions sometimes, right? But as someone who has really worked hard to make decisions, even if I haven't processed it all, even if I haven't thought about it, I'll look at it briefly and be like, okay, I think this will work out. I'll go into it and I'll try it. It's been very difficult with my track record, with my legal track record that I have. It's very tough to get a job. It's very tough to find normalcy in life. And so there are a lot of times where I'm faced with an opportunity and then I panic. So I'm like, well, what if it's the wrong thing? What if I get 3 months down the road and it's not right? And then I won't make the decision and then I'll fall apart because it passed by. Versus, look at me, using my life as an example. I'm about to be 36 years old, folks. That's, is that old? No. Is that young? No, not really. But, there have been so many times, especially in the past 10 years, where I've had to restart a new job, career even, right? I've had career jobs, had to restart. Places to live, had to restart. Financially, completely had to restart. And it's okay. You can get to the age of 50 and you can still figure it out, right? So there is no too late right? Now, if you're 98 years old and you're hanging on by a thread and you're sitting here saying, you know what, I should have, back in my 20s, I should have accepted that D1 scholarship to go play baseball, you probably missed the boat on that one, right? But as far as like career, even changing how you see the world, perspective, right? You know how many people have really cool stories of going their entire lives of thinking one way and then just shift towards the end of their life? And it's, you know, that last little bit of their life is so happy. Like, that's a cool story. It's not too late, right? What is going to be too late is if you continue to not make a decision and let opportunities just pass you by, right? You are sitting stagnant. You are not doing anything. And the complacency will kill you, right? It's going to be tough. And you're going to live this life of nothing but regret and get to the end of your life and say, I wish, I wish, I wish. I tell people this all the time. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of people of older generations in my life. And that has helped me out and benefited me so much. We talked about it last episode, where I hang out with guys who are in stages of life that I'm approaching because I learn so much from them. If you're someone who's, you know, anywhere from your teens all the way up to, I'd say, your 40s, go to a nursing home. Go sit down at a place where old people gather. And I'm talking old people, you know, like in their 70s, 80s, whatever, later on in life. I apologize if anybody's listening to this and you are 70 and you feel young and spry. You probably are. I don't mean to say that you're old in a negative way. Anyways, I digress. But go talk to these people who are at different stages of life. And one thing that will break your heart is when you see how much regret they have. They have all of this regret built up of these, you know, I wish, I wish, I wish. What if they would have just done it? It would have changed everything for them in the long run, right? So that's all I'm saying. Moving on, part 4, how to make choices without losing your damn mind, okay? This is going to be the solution for you. Get ready, buckle up. So here's how to stop choking on choices. Step 1, limit your options, right? Sheena Iyengar's research shows that narrowing choices outrageously reduces stress. Don't browse 50 restaurants. Just pick 3. Pick 3 restaurants and then decide out of those 3. A 2019 study in the Journal of Consumer Research found that cutting options by 50% boosts your decision speed and satisfaction, okay? So you're gonna be overall more effective and more happy, okay? And then for ADHD, this is very critical. It's a very critical stage in all of this. Fewer choices mean you're less overwhelmed. Try the rule of 3. Pick 3 options, choose 1. For OCD people, set a time limit. Give yourself 10 minutes to decide and then commit to 1. There's a 2020 study in behavior research and therapy that found that time-bound decisions reduce OCD-related anxiety by a lot. Okay? When you're faced with all of these decisions, pick 3 of them. Say, you know, tell your phone to set a timer. Now you're on the clock. And within that amount of time, you better have picked a decision if you're OCD. Okay? And here's a pro tip for you. The perfect choice, and I mean the perfect choice, is an absolute lie. All right? Pick something that is good enough and then just move on. All right, there's a 2020 study in Psychological Bulletin that showed that the satisficing, I think is what it's called, which is basically just choosing what's adequate. It's not the best, just choosing what's adequate. It cuts stress and regret big time, right? Your life is not a movie, so stop auditioning every option like it's the starring role, okay? Step 2, use a decision-making framework, okay? You can try Susie Welch's 10-10-10 rule, and this is, I think the way that this goes, and I could be wrong, but the 10-10-10 rule is, how will this feel in 10 minutes? How will it feel in 10 months? How will it feel in 10 years? All right, it forces the perspective. We've talked about moving things from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex. This lets the prefrontal cortex just kind of start to process things for you so you're not reacting on emotion. Okay, there's a 2021 study in Decision magazine that found that structured tools reduce decision anxiety by 30%. Okay, big number, that'll help you. For neurodivergent folks, frameworks are an absolute lifeline. I'm telling you, I promise you, it works. Frameworks are a lifeline. ADHD brains benefit from visual aids like pros and cons lists. Okay, I'm definitely in that category. Write it down and then stay focused. That's all you have to do, right? What are the pros and cons? Real quick. It doesn't have to be a huge list. Just write down, here are the pros, here are the cons. 10-10-10. For the OCD people, externalize the decision. Talk it out with a friend, all right, to break the rumination loop. You're just trying to get out of this loop in your head that everything has to be perfect. And then for the autistic individuals, you can use routines to simplify choices, like always ordering the same coffee or reduce sensory overload. Guys, I've ordered the same sandwich from Subway for decades now, right? I get black coffee. I don't do anything crazy. Everywhere I go, I have like the order. That's it, right? Because I panic. I have menu panic. I don't want to get there and have to answer to someone asking me what's my order and then have to read off it. No, I know exactly what I want. This is what I want, and that's it, period, right? And that's tough for me, but it's become a lot easier because it is stress-free. Step 3, build confidence with small choices. A 2019 study in the Journal of Positive Psychology showed that practicing small and deliberate decisions like picking a workout or a meal, it boosts self-efficacy. You're going to start to feel a lot better about yourself and with yourself, okay? Start with lunch, not your life plan, right? You don't have to go crazy here. You're just making small decisions. Build that momentum, one bite at a time, one little step at a time, right? For ADHD folks, small wins are going to keep you from spiraling into that impulsivity category. And then for OCD people, practicing quick decisions on low stakes stuff like what to wear, right? That's going to reduce that obsessive checking. This has saved me. I'm telling you, I used to get locked up in decisions when, with my OCD, I'm constantly worried about it. And then I'll just pick something and go. Okay. I do it with a podcast. I have an entire closet of all these cool Pearl Snap shirts. I just pick one or pick a shirt that's there. Doesn't even have to be a Pearl Snap. And then I just go, right? But I have had episodes, in the 40 episodes, I've had a couple of them where I just sit there and I panic. I'm like, what do I wear? What did I wear last week? What did I wear 3 weeks ago? I don't want them to think I have the same shirt. What do I do? Pick one and go. All right. And then for the autistic folks in this, you can start with something familiar. That's going to build the decision-making muscle without the sensory overload. Okay. And then step 4, accept regret. Please, this is a big one. Accept regret. Every choice means that you're going to lose something, right? That's part of the decision-making process. I got to pick one, okay? So you're going to lose something else. There's a 2018 study in emotion that found that accepting regret as part of decision-making reduces its sting big time. You don't pick the wrong partner, you picked a path, okay? Own it, learn, move on, keep growing, get better, all right? And then for the neurodivergent folks, this is huge. ADHD, the impulsivity can lead to regret spirals nonstop. OCD, you can get trapped in that, like the what ifs category, and then autism can make change feel catastrophic. Practice the self-compassion in all of this. Remind yourself that you're learning, you're not failing, okay? Accept the regret. Regret is part of life. Accept the fact that you're gonna pick something and it may not even be the best decision, but it's gonna be okay. Okay? Anyways, the burden of choice is a bitch. It's not freedom. Okay? It's a gauntlet. Every decision feels like a chance to screw up, especially if your brain is wired with ADHD, OCD, or autism. But indecision is just you choosing failure by default. I've spent years paralyzed by choices, from jobs to relationships, and I learned the hard way that you're stronger than your indecision. You are much stronger than your indecision. Okay? The science says it. Limit options, use tools, build confidence, and then accept the regret. Okay? You've got the power to stop letting choices own you. You absolutely deserve a life where you're not frozen by a menu or a career path. Take control, make a call, live with it. Right? You're tougher than you think, I promise you. Okay? Your challenge for this week, I'm going to give you my challenges, right? Pick one decision that you've been dodging, whether it's big or small, and then just make it this week. Use the 10-10-10 rule or just pick something, all right? And then drop it in the comments. Let me know how it went. I'm going to read every single one. Stop stalling and start choosing, all right? As always, thank you for rocking with Sober Psychology. YouTube folks, if this episode hit you, smash the like button, subscribe, share it with someone who's stuck choosing between Netflix shows instead of living. Spotify people, if you're listening, thank y'all again. I would appreciate a follow. Share it with anybody that you think needs to get out of their decision-making loop, I guess. We'll see you next week, Spotify folks, YouTube warriors. You guys know what to do, but let's keep it real. I'm Michael. I'll catch you next time. Stay decisive, stay real, and keep fighting. Keep your head up, keep your heart open, and go help somebody. Love you guys.